Because Aaron is here.
Yeah, Aaron's here. Aaron and
I signed in on the wrong. Well, whatever.
Aaron's sitting behind you somewhere, Cal, right?
Yeah, way behind.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be an interesting evening.
Yeah. I think people have been into the cocktails already, so.
I think they've been spending too much time on Zoom already
On
today.
Zoom, yeah.
Yeah. Got that right, Tim.
Zoom
Yep.
brain, yeah. So welcome, everybody. This is the October 6th Caroline Town Board agenda meeting. And we are recording the meeting and we'll post that on the town website along with the minutes. So welcome, and I hope everybody is doing well now. Still fairly summery, fallish out there. And I will start the meeting by offering an opportunity for privilege of the floor from anybody who would like to speak to the board. And you can do that by, I believe you go to your participants panel, and then down at the bottom, there should be a button for raising your hand. So if you'd like to speak to the board, please go ahead and raise your hand and we will unmute you and allow you to speak. Okay, well, I'm not seeing any blue Zoom hands. And I guess with that, I would offer a call for additions or deletions from tonight's agenda.
I do have, it's an addition of a sort, Mark.
Yep.
It's partly as part of my committee report,
Okay,
but I'll also make it an agenda item for a straw vote tonight.
a straw vote, is that, so we draw straws or how does that work?
Yeah,
Okay, that's fine. So, and that's related to
it's related to
regional
broadband.
broadband.
Yeah, it's related to broadband and
Okay.
just the timing for us relative to the county's budget process.
Okay, thank you for bringing that forward. It's on the agenda. So if I do happen to forget, then start yelling or something like that. Great. So, whoops. So now the next item on our agenda is introduction of the 2021 budget. And let's see, I'm trying to think how I want to do this. I guess so what I'll do is actually introduce the actual budget spreadsheet first. So hang on a second while I try to share my screen.
Mark, can I just get
Yeah.
a basic understanding before we get too far into this?
Okay.
So what is your plan in regards to introducing the budget? Are you expecting that we'll also have a preliminary discussion and overview?
I was thinking I was going to introduce it, explain how I came to the budget that I'm presenting tonight, and I'd be happy to entertain any discussion that people want to pursue.
Okay, can I maybe then make a suggestion? Because that's gonna be a chunk, right? It's
Yep.
gonna take a while doing all of that. And
It
it's
is.
an important chunk, but I wonder if we could maybe do committee reports first so that we then just
That's
spend
fine.
the
I'm
bulk of
happy to do
time
that.
doing budget stuff, or, I guess, either way, I guess it
No,
both have
that's-
to get done, but
Is everybody else okay with that on the board?
Sure,
Okay,
Sure.
I'm totally fine with that. So
good idea.
great. So with that, I guess I will call for committee reports. And anybody that would like to begin may do so.
Since I'm meeting 4 times this week and have done so almost every week recently, I'll give a brief committee report. The planning board has been meeting. It met last Thursday to begin reviewing public commentary from the public hearing on both the oral comments, but also there were, I can't remember, something like 15 written commentaries, written
Oh, wow.
comments as well. And they are working through them to integrate them into the plan where deemed appropriate. So they're meeting again Thursday night
Thursday night.
at 5 o'clock, I believe it is.
Yep.
And then we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know if they'll approve the comprehensive plan at that meeting, or it will take another meeting to do so. My hunch is probably it'll take another meeting to do so. But in any case, it's looking like we'll have it by the agenda meeting in November.
Wow, fabulous.
If not before, but I doubt we'll have it before, but maybe.
Great.
So
Sounds
that
good.
would then allow us to have a public hearing, maybe even before the business meeting in November, so that we could act on it.
That sounds, yeah, great.
And the task
Well,
force,
Hold it. Yeah. I'm
hold
not-
it.
Yeah, I'm just not so sure of that as a timeline, in that when the planning board releases their final version, I think the board will need to be able to review it.
Oh, sure. I mean, you're absolutely right. That's probably
Yeah.
rushed. You're right. Sorry. I wasn't thinking clearly. Because the other thing that we're going to have to do, well, after the public hearing, then we're going to also have to, if not before, finalize the document for graphics and design and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't think that the planning board is going to give us a completely finalized, designed document. So we'll also have to do that. So it's going to take us a couple of weeks regardless. You're right. And then the task force for land
Land
planning and
use and
economic
economic
development. I
development.
can never remember I open these meetings and I don't know what task force I'm leading, so I never remember the name. We've met 4 times already.
Wow.
And the group decided to meet weekly. And we're making, I think, a lot of progress. So it's quite clear to me that by the time the comprehensive plan is approved, that there will either be specific recommendations for particular items or specific recommendations in terms of how the board should move forward. It's
That's
been a
fabulous, Tim.
tremendously smart and activist group. And we've been facilitated by our planner, Greg Colucci. Last night we met with Tompkins County planner. So things are well underway. The group's read a lot of law, reviewed a lot of documents.
Wow,
So every week they do a lot of reading.
that's really impressive. Are those meetings being
Really
recorded?
tiring.
What?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
they are?
They're being recorded. And the minutes are on the website. I don't know if last night's is, but the minutes are on the website.
Okay,
And the group decided to record, even though technically it's not required by
okay.
open meeting law.
Minutes and recordings are
Yep.
going to the website. Yep.
And the minutes, Greg takes the minutes and they're incredibly detailed. So you don't need to listen to the recordings. The minutes are that detailed that you can get a sense of the entire meeting pretty well.
Exactly.
That's really spectacular. Thank you for shepherding this. It's huge.
Yep. Great. Thanks, Tim. Great to hear all that. And I'll pause and I think, is that your complete report, Tim?
I hope so.
Okay. And I'll let anybody else chime in when they would like to.
Sure, I'll chime in with a report on broadband. there was a very interesting meeting a couple of weeks ago that was coordinated through TCOG and Anna Kellis, who's a county legislator, had been working behind the scenes. She had become aware of efforts that were going on at an inter-county level. There's a group called Southern Tier 8 of 8 different counties that work on regional planning and economic development issues, and several of them, of course, were experiencing, like we are, issues around broadband that, you know, just became that much more spotlighted now that we're in COVID social distancing situations where many of our residents in Caroline and residents all across the Southern Tier don't have the broadband they need to work from home, to school their kids from home, to have doctor appointments from home, or any number of things. And so anyhow, there's a organization, a nonprofit organization called Southern Tier Network that has focused on building out what's called in the technical language middle mile fiber. So it's not actually the fiber or the cable that provides the internet service, but it's the, if you will, I'm using very, you know, rudimentary terms here, but it's the bigger fiber optic cable that would accumulate and convey all kinds of data from all kinds of places. And they've built that out already in a few counties in the Southern Tier. And it enables municipal ownership of the network, and then municipalities to promote and encourage internet service providers to come in to provide service that, again, because the towns own the network, the towns can do much more to direct what the services are and how to finance it, and where to provide the service and the speeds and everything else. So anyhow, it's a very interesting model. And several of these counties have engaged with Southern Tier Network and Fujitsu to do a planning study for what it would take to build things out more in their counties and within the municipalities in their counties. And what was being proposed by Anna in this conversation is that Tompkins County piggyback on the work that's already been proposed for planning in these other counties, and that Tompkins County should get on board as well. And so she has proposed at the county level, so this is, I'm transitioning a little bit to the agenda item that I mentioned. She's proposed that the county support something called an over target request, a one-time budget request for up to $80,000 to enable Tompkins County to engage in this planning process. That would help to identify, you know, what kinds of resources are needed and how many people would need to, you know, adopt and, you know, into the system in order, and what the payback period would be, and a whole engineering planning study. And so anyhow, she's proposed that, or will be proposing that to the county as an over target request. The thing to know about over target requests, there's sort of two pots of money that the county thinks about. And one is the pot of money that's generated from their tax revenues. And then there's another pot of money that's their reserves and unappropriated general funds that they can use for one-time requests. These are not for permanent positions. They're really for one-time projects. And so she's suggesting that this be one of those projects that the money gets dedicated to. I think you all are certainly aware that it's a very tight budget year for the county, much, it's going to be, and we'll learn from Mark, the impacts here. But I think the county is much more impacted because of declines in state funding, declines in sales tax and other revenues, probably the money that they got from the casinos. My guess is that the casinos haven't been operating. And so that revenues to the county are certainly in a low point. And so, but nonetheless, I think that there's broad recognition of how important broadband is to everybody's day-to-day operations. Years ago, it used to be thought of as sort of a luxury, and I don't think we're in that same place anymore. I think we all recognize that it's a necessity. And so anyhow, I've put together a resolution that I sent around to you earlier today. Not that much earlier, maybe 5:30. And it's only because I just was alerted to the fact that Anna had anticipated that we would need to support it by the 14th of this month. And so I had anticipated I would introduce it this week, we'd vote on it next week, and and send it off to the county. Ends up that they're actually having their budget discussions tomorrow night on over target requests. And so what I'd like to ask is preliminary straw vote on this so that I can signal to them that we will have an official vote next week. But signal to them if we approve, in a straw vote, the idea of this. I certainly do want our public to be able to give comment and the usual kind of thing we do with resolutions. So I don't want to make this the official vote. But I would like to have us consider it as a straw vote that I could communicate to the county that we suspect that there will be support for this officially next week. And so I don't know how you'd like me to handle this. I can pull it up on my share screen and have us all look at it together, or if you saw it in email and just want to review it. It basically goes through a bunch of whereases describing the importance of broadband.
Yeah, why don't you share it, Irene, if you can do that?
Do share screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to have to open my email and stuff.
Okay, I can do that. All right. Can folks see this now?
Yep.
Okay. So, and again, I don't know, do you want me to read it out loud, or do you just want some quiet time to read and then let me know when I should scroll the page?
I'm good with quiet time, and then you could focus on the resolves. That would be my suggestion.
So do you want me to skip over all the blah, blah, blah whereases and just go to the resolve, or what are you asking for?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm kind of going over it now. I won't know until I read it, I guess. So if you can, why don't you just summarize the salient points, what you think are the important points? Go ahead.
Okay, well, I've sort of done that in my introductory comments, but you can see by the title, what ultimately I'm proposing is that the town of Caroline has a resolution supporting the over target request for Tompkins County to undertake a broadband planning study, and that we would pledge $5,000 in support of that study. And so it goes through a bunch of whereases about how, broadband is really needed. You guys may be interested in this one, that at least 300 households, which is roughly 25% of the households in Caroline, lack access to broadband. And there are other barriers, not just that, the cable doesn't run by their house, but even when it does, if your house is set back too far, Spectrum wants to charge you $10,000, $15,000 to run it to your house. And other people, Spectrum's prices are just out of reach. So for a lot of reasons, people don't have broadband in this community. And I think, you know, we talked a little bit about how Spectrum and others are driven by profit motives rather than public interests. And that, you know, it's been usually state or federal grant programs that, you know, are competitive and that we don't always fare very well. In terms of municipally owned services, they can certainly serve the public interest better. And further, it's not economically feasible for each of us to fight with each other to build our own fiber networks, and that we think that a collective regional approach is the most sensible way to go. Then it gets into a little bit of a description of Southern Tier Network, being a municipally owned nonprofit that has a fiber network. And in fact, it extends through Caroline. It comes down White Church Road and drops down over the hill down to Elm Street, and then out to Brookendale Road and up to 79 and off to the vet school. So the large size fiber already exists here, which is really interesting. And it's built to support public interests. And they've already maintained 500 miles of fiber across Schuyler County, Chemung, Steuben, Yates, Tioga, Broome, and Tompkins. And they're now working with member counties to explore solutions to reach into the most rural areas. And here's where it gets into, they've already, these counties, Schuyler, Chemung, Steuben, Yates, and Tioga, have already hired Fujitsu to do a study with 5 deliverables to explore a plan for Southern Tier Network to build, own, and operate a network for both the middle mile and what's called last mile fiber in their communities. And this webinar, we met with Steve Manning. He said that Tompkins County might want to jump on board with that proposal. And so this last whereas is just that we meaning I participated, and Mark, I think you were on as well, participated in the webinar to learn more about the potential. And I think that it's an exciting opportunity that will bring economies of scale that we just wouldn't find otherwise.
I called the
What?
I called the meeting.
Yes, you did. So now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town of Caroline Town Board asks the county legislature to support a one-time over target request of not more than $80,000 for a planning study that will provide the following deliverables to help identify a possible path forward for countywide build out of both middle and last mile fiber optic cable in Tompkins County. So it would include a market assessment, the design of, how to reach each address point, the business and operation model, the operations and maintenance, and the financials of both the capital involved and operations. This thing about take rate is, how many people, you're going to get, whatever, 7 out of 10 households will subscribe, or, whatever it is, that's the take rate. And what kind of revenue you can expect, and, over what period of time to pay it off. And then what I'm suggesting is this further resolved, that the town pledges $5,000 to be paid to Tompkins County in 2021 when the contract for the above deliverables is executed. And the reason I suggest this, and I've sent this off, we set up a listserv of all the municipalities who participated in this, and I think almost every municipality did, Mark, is that, as I said, it's a tough budget year for the county. There's going to be a lot of competition for these over target requests. I think it would go a long way with 9 municipalities at $5,000 apiece. We'd be looking at paying roughly half, even a little bit more than half, through each municipality's participation. And I think that I think that that shows goodwill on our part and partnership and, you know, and a vested interest of our municipalities in building out broadband. I think it's something that certainly the number of emails that I respond to on almost a weekly basis of people who are saying, hey, what's up with this? You campaigned on this, where are things at? You know, I'm writing again just to find out. I'm thinking of moving because I can't get service. It's a really pressing issue. And so I do think that our residents would support our efforts in this regard. And I hope that it will speak loudly to the county as to the level of municipal interest in this, that we're willing to put some of our own money on the table to help make it happen. And so, you know, again, I do want us to go through the usual channels of, you know, putting a resolution before our public and, you know, hearing whatever comments and taking an official vote next week. But the challenge is that the county is going to be discussing over target requests tomorrow.
Right.
And so I'd like to give them an indication. So you know, what I'd like to ask for at this point is, you know, some discussion of this idea and you know, a straw vote as to whether or not we think we're likely to move this with a thumbs up next week.
Discussion?
Irene, is this must be the same project that Dan Klein was signaling us to before, I assume?
Yeah, it's a little bit broader, but yes. Dan had let us know that there was starting to be some talk of things and, you know, with Danby and the county. And so this is the bigger picture of what it is. Yeah.
And how would we, how are we going to receive by next week an indication from the other towns regarding their willingness to participate, which could matter?
Well, I sent out to the listserv tonight this resolution to all of the all the participants in the
So you
webinar.
have, so in other words, you haven't I mean, this is just an open question. It's not an opinion or anything, but you haven't solicited specifically requests for them to do the same thing.
Well, I did. I sent this
They did,
resolution to the listserv tonight. Tim, I just learned.
No,
that-
I'm just asking whether there was an explicit ask or whether you just
Yes.
shared the resolution.
Yes,
That's all.
I shared the resolution and I said, you know, we need quick action on this. And that here is how I plan to proceed and that I hope that they could do similarly.
That's what I assumed. I just was asking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Irene, it seems to me it's something that certainly needs to be done, but I just bristle a little bit at another planning study. It just seems like, why can't we approach it with, you want a franchise, get these areas covered, or you're not going to get your franchise? Just be a little more authoritarian, totalitarian, or whatever. It just seems like, you know,
Because
we're doing a
because
planning
Cal-
study for things we already know.
Cal,
I think-
Cal, we don't already know, and the franchises frankly aren't interested. The franchises have come and looked and decided that, you know, they don't want to build out to, you know, 25%
Irene-
of our residents. Yeah.
Yeah,
Irene,
but then.
Can
but
I
then
ask you?
what- Go ahead, Mark.
I just want to say Cal's question to me brings to the forefront that this is kind of a different model. Can you explain that, Irene?
Yeah, I will, but you know, so the first answer though is the franchises aren't interested in being here. And in fact, the only way that they were able to be at all enticed in being here was for the state to put up the money for them to come, because they just think they're not going to earn money off of it. But the difference here is that this would be municipally owned. In effect, you know, you could think of it as us issuing, we wouldn't be doing it this exact way, but issuing a long-term bond that we would do a study to figure out how many people would subscribe? How much would they be willing to pay? What's the engineering of running the fiber? What are the most efficient ways? How would we get it done? What would the overall cost be? And then, okay, so then we would need a bond of X number of dollars to be paid back over the next 20 years. And here's what it would cost per household if we did it ourselves to do this
Okay.
network. So that's,
Okay, so this
but
is a
except,
municipal project versus
this
a
is,
private
this is, a,
project.
this is a municipal project, except, and here's where it's it's even a bit different and bigger thinking than that, Cal, is that we simply don't have the kind of population density in,
Yeah.
in a town like Caroline to ever be able to afford to build out a network here on our own. It would cost a fortune. But when you add in a much broader base and including multiple cities that do have a larger population, you then have an economy of scale and you distribute the costs across a much larger population.
Yeah.
And so that's the vision behind this. And then further, what happens when you own the network is, you then are in control of what you want to have happen in your town. So that if we want to make sure that there's no, I forget the term for this, but if you didn't subscribe to something, then you get slower service, kind of thing that they wanted to do a few years ago. We could stop that happening on our network. We would be able to run the show and say, here's how a network's going to operate in our town, as opposed to vice versa. So it's a municipally owned, very different version
Okay,
of things. And that's why we need to do the design, because we don't have it. It's always been done by the people who, the internet service providers who write the grants to New York State. And, I've talked with Hafele about the areas that we don't have service in, and he said he just can't afford to do it. And, I've been looking for grants, and the grants are structured in such a way, at least the federal stuff, where we don't qualify for the federal grants.
Yeah.
So anyhow, this seems like a much more sensible long-term plan that doesn't leave us scrambling from one internet service provider to the next, and this grant and that grant. It's just the thing that I feel really badly about is that it's not a quick fix. And which is really what our residents are clamoring for, and I don't blame them. But this will be a solid fix. This is the right kind of fix.
Yep. So following up on that, the study, it's not optional, it's a necessity for doing it this way. And I think you explained that. But then if I understand correctly, so as we'll own this, and then the providers would actually, they would lease rights to the fiber trunk to provide service. So that's a return on investment that we would receive, correct?
Yeah, it would get paid for both by the lease from the internet service providers. It would also get paid for through the service fee that people who hook up to it pay every month.
Right.
And
so that's really, to me, very it's very attractive.
Right, but it's also, so looking at number 5, and I mentioned this thing called the take rate. Is it 7 out of 10 or only 4 out of 10 people? How many people want to adopt it here, and at what price point? So they can look at different price points. If it was going to be $45 a month, how many people would sign on? If it was going to be $65 a month, how many people would sign on? And so, all of that will help us to know what's doable.
Mm-hmm. So one thing that came up in that meeting is Dan Lamb spoke up to explain a little bit about Dryden's situation for deploying municipally owned broadband. And so I think there are parallels there. And Dan was explaining how, you know, they're working to really make it an economical solution for their residents. Do you think we have the same opportunity here, or do we need to keep open the option of doing it a little bit differently, or not?
I think that we would have a hard time doing it in the way that Dryden is doing it. Because we don't have the population base. They've got, I think they've got about 15,000 residents in Dryden. They've got a village, you know, that's pretty well populated. They are larger than us in terms of square miles. They're close to 100 square miles. We're 55 square miles. I don't know how many miles of roads they have. So, you know, they certainly will have to build out to their rural reaches, just like we would have to build out to our rural reaches. But they have more of a population density
Right.
to
right.
defray the cost. So I don't think, so Dryden is doing this, but they're doing it just as a individual isolated town doing it.
Right.
And I don't think we could afford to do it that way. I don't know, you know, if we wanted to, in addition to this, spend money to figure out on our own, or maybe this would give us the information as to could we go it on our own versus going with the larger group. But my guess is that going with the larger group, meaning the 8 counties involved here, would be a better path forward for us. Both in terms of attracting internet service providers and also just in terms of the economy of scale and amassing enough people to defray the costs.
Mark and Irene, based upon what you heard from Dan, and this is just a total out of the blue question, would there be any possibility of our partnering with a neighboring town, for example, like partnering with Dryden?
I've suggested that to Jason several times.
Yeah, Jason hasn't been very friendly to the idea. I've mentioned it to him as well, and for whatever reasons, they want to go it alone.
Yeah, I think it came up in TCOG early, whether, you know, what they're doing could be just done countywide. And I think he feels like it's sort of a management issue, and they sort of, you know, they want to move ahead and not get bogged down with they want to set, you know, see if they can establish a model and maybe it could spread that way or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
And is there any futuristic thing of it just being cell-based to the home for broadband, you know, some sort of 6G network?
It's an interesting question, Cal. And there's always that risk with technology that you know, what's going to be the next new technology. The one thing that I, you know, I don't know a whole lot about 5G, which is, you know, the new level that they're starting. But one of the things that I did learn about 5G is that unlike 4G, which can have, you know, one fairly tall pole that broadcasts over a super wide distance, that 5G requires many more poles, not quite line of sight, but pretty close to it. And we had already, back years ago when we were working with Clarity Connect on a potential WiMAX system, looked into, you know, essentially a line of sight kind of build out. And it was going to take, I forget, 15, 18 poles situated around Caroline because, you know, we just have such challenging topography. And in fact, and this is, you know, the challenges that we've had with state funding, the state looked at that and said, no, that's crazy. We're not going to fund that. You know,
Mhm.
because what the state wants to be able to do with their grants is to be able to brag about, we had X amount of money to spend and we spent it and served, you know, look how many people we served for how much.
Dollars per person. Yep.
Yeah, and you know, when we took up, you know, we were almost a third of all of Tompkins County poll numbers were situated, just or 20% anyhow, would
Yep.
just be in the town of Caroline, and literally New York State threw it out of the proposal and said, no, we're not building that.
Yep.
Cost too much relative to the number of people. So given that, I don't anticipate that we're gonna get 5G in this town anytime soon. You know, we're just now getting 4G, and even with it, it's still not gonna cover the whole town. So,
So do you want a straw poll now? Irene, is that the idea?
yeah,
That's
if there are no more questions, I'd like a straw poll. You know, both on that we support the idea of this, and in particular, you know, the piece about pledging to pay $5,000 to the
So
county.
I'll just mention that I'm working on issuing the payment to Hafele that we committed for the build out in the round 2 and 3 in Caroline.
Uh-huh.
And that is going to leave, we got donations from the Park Foundation and from the county for that. And that's going to leave, I think there's about $4,000 that'll be left over from the county contribution. So this would be a good opportunity. We could dedicate that part to this.
Give them their own money back.
Yeah, instead of taking it. But yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, you know, and honestly, I mean, it's nice that we have that. I would hope that even if we didn't, that it's not a huge amount of money, and it's something that, you know, we very much need in this community. So I'm glad to hear that you've already figured out a way to finance it, but I hope that we can encourage all of the
Well,
other municipalities to chip in, whether or not there's a, you know.
Yeah, but this money is dedicated for broadband, so I
Yep.
think we should.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. Great. All right,
So,
so straw poll.
I'm supportive of the resolution, so.
I'm voting yes.
I'll
Okay.
go along with it.
All right, great. I'll let the
Sure.
county know that I expect that we'll have support for this next week. But I will send it in to Anna and to Jason tomorrow, just to put it on their radar and let them know that there's support.
Great, thank you.
But
Yeah,
we should also give Dan a heads up since he brought this to us initially.
yeah, sure.
That-
We can
Good
do
to bring
that
him
as
to
well.
the-
I think I'll double check, but I think Dan is probably on the listserv, Tim, but I'll double check.
Yeah, just-
And certainly I could easily do that, and well, we should, whether or not he brought it to us, just because he's our guy. So happy to send that to him as well. I do have, let me just, if you're interested, I have also, I sent it in the email to you guys, but a map of the areas that we do and don't have broadband service. So I don't know if you're,
Do you want to send that to us or what?
yeah, I
So
did send it in the email. I didn't know if you wanted to see it on screen as well or not.
Oh, I don't know if you want, I think we should move this discussion pretty quickly, but
Yeah,
if you want to
that's
do
fine.
that briefly, that'd be fine. I will mention while you're doing that, Lee Hafele stopped in the office the other day, and he's going to be applying for, I think, this FCC money for broadband in parts of Caroline. So
Cool.
Huh. Okay. Last I heard from him, he didn't think so. So
Yep.
that's interesting.
Yep.
All right, let me go back to share screen again. So here's the map of Caroline. This was sent by Southern Tier 8. And they wanted it, their colors were in purple of all of our streets. And they wanted to know which areas still did not have service. And so I used gray to color out all of the areas that are, you know, state forest and that we don't have residents. But you can see from the standpoint of the roads, this area, the southeast portion, you know, Speedsville area is covered by Hayfley. And some of our main roads, 79 and Brooktondale Road, are covered by Spectrum. But beyond that, there's a lot of people that are doing without in our town. And,
Irene, could you send that map to Bill Podolka and the planning board in case they'd want to include it in the comprehensive plan?
sure, yeah. It's actually, Tim, it should be in your email. That
Okay.
I sent this tonight,
All right,
along with the resolution. But I can certainly send it to Bill as well.
do it. I can do it.
I'll also, I'll share I think Lee followed up our conversation by sending me his map. So I'll share that with you guys.
Great. All right, so that is my very lengthy committee report.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Cal, do you have anything you want to talk about? You want to bring
Well,
forward?
just, you know, that the highway department did a great job in the front yard of the town hall here.
Yeah, I think so too.
So
Yep.
we've all seen that. So that's about, I mean, I think I guess it's not well known that Brookton Cemetery has a new board of directors. In case, I know you know, Mark, but Irene and Tim, maybe
Good.
just bring you up to speed that
Mhm.
and, you know, we'll be going forward. The five people are, the bylaws call for between 3 and 5 directors. They will be Bill Beesmer, Greg Harrington, Emily Adams, John Carson, and Cal Snow. So,
Thank you for your service.
well, it's a privilege.
Yeah, absolutely, Cal. Thank you so much. That's
Yeah.
great.
It is great. Thank you.
That's great news. That's just super news. Oh,
Yeah. And, you know, we've had one meeting already and we've got another one tomorrow morning, and we're try to keep up at the same high standard that's been in the past.
Mhm.
So,
Hey, Cal, I was wondering if there's any updates on the highway barn committee.
no. I got in touch with Brandon Becker, who is at Lamont Engineers, and he was going to send us a proposal just for doing a site study. And I haven't heard from him. I meant to get to him today and say, hey, you know, if maybe he's just gotten caught up in the end of the year crush, but you know, to just look at, you know, let's start with where and get down here and just kind of, you know, what are the logistics of things. So I will follow up with him and let you know more next week.
Thanks. Is the committee still functional? The committee itself?
No, well, I mean, it's functional, but we haven't met. So, I mean, it's just, you know, it's just, I don't know, this Zoom COVID stuff is a challenge, and we've, you know, kind of got it. It hasn't been kept up, and so we're trying to get some momentum back into things, get moving, and then get some momentum.
Thanks.
I wonder, yeah, maybe, I mean, it might be constructive to just, would it, I know Bobby's on the line. He can offer his thoughts. Maybe be constructive to put it on the agenda for discussion next week. We could do that. just to get kind of compare thoughts and get up to speed.
Yep,
Would that be cool?
yep.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
You there, Bob?
Yep, I'm here. Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay.
We're at that end of the year crunch trying to finish paving and finish all the projects. Just trying
Great.
to
Okay.
put a few things.
I'll try to remember at the end of the meeting to put that on our agenda for next week to,
Hey, I was by the town hall and it looks great. I was just wondering, are we gonna seed it? Who's gonna do the seeding for the lawn? Are we gonna do that now?
Bobby has a plan.
Yep.
I'll let
We're
him.
actually happy to see that.
Okay, great. Does it need topsoil, new topsoil to do it?
The topsoil's been distributed and we're hoping to work with Soil and Water or the county with their hydroseeder. I think Bobby's suffering from the poor cell signal up on the top of one of the hills of the town here, so. That's the best, we'll get the nicest job that way. The topsoil's been distributed, leveled, and it's just ready
Yeah.
for the hydroseeding.
Great. No, that was just hard to tell the way that it's, rock it out. Yeah, great. It'll be nice.
So it should have time to get, the weather's been nice, we should have time for it to get established. The soil's been damped down and
Yeah.
I would think it would get a good start before winter and hold the
Right.
soil there. And the water runoff off the parking lot, we had that 1 inch of rainstorm and, the runoff wasn't as considerable as I thought it might be for that amount of rain. Kind of, it heads to about the center on the west part. There was no water running out the curb cut into the road, but there was, running across to the edge of the parking lot and then down and around. But I think it certainly looks very nice. It's a
Yeah.
great job. It ought to last a long time. And, we can probably do some tweaking on things if they're big concerns.
I think,
So,
Bob,
Thank you for doing that, Bobby.
yeah, thank you, Bob.
No problem.
Bob, did you mention to me that you were thinking of doing something there near, like creating a slight depression near the utility pole? There. Is that-
Yeah, a little bit. There's a little bit of where the sod was kind of heaped up before. And we actually kind of designed it so that it wouldn't run out into the middle of the 79. We kind of wanted it to gradually work through the yard and work its way down. So there's about a little bucket and a half of dirt that's got to come out of there. But
Great,
other than that, it should be good.
good, thank you. Great, okay, any more committee report material?
Oh, you know what? I do have to send to Bobby and I think, probably need some thought and direction, Mark, from the board. I got the road use agreement that they're using in Danby. And
Okay.
yeah, I honestly, I think that we're gonna need to hire Delta or, a company to work with us
Mhm,
to develop our own version.
okay. Okay, let's circle back on that. I know Don had collected his materials
Yeah,
from the draft law and was going to get back to me. I haven't heard back. I think other things must have consumed his time, but I'll circle back and see what he has. He was planning to get me back, a revised draft or something that is, as far as I understood. But yeah, so and then we can think about whether we need Delta or whatever and
yeah,
go from there. So that sounds good.
yep.
Great. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. So I guess now I will share my
Now it's budget time.
now it's budget time. I'll introduce the tentative budget, and I'm going to try to share it now when I quit fumbling around here. Okay. Should be shared now, I think. Actually, yeah, so as I mentioned before, I'll try to go through things kind of by, here we go. I have it written down here. There we go. So I kept the wage rates for non-union employees flat, everyone I spoke to was agreeable to that. We felt like that was a good thing to do this year with everything that's going on. I budgeted lines conservatively based on 2020 expenditures. And there aren't a lot of, striking things, I guess. You can see my notations on the right-hand side. I did, at Jesse's recommendation, I reduced the deputy clerk information aid line based on her expectations of need for next year. So that's shown right here.
Mark, sorry.
Question?
Yeah, this is a technical thing I hope you know how to do. Are you able to just freeze the top line so that
Oh yeah, sorry, I'll do it right now. Yeah,
Yeah, good.
I should have done that.
No, it's okay. I was just hoping that you knew how to do that because.
Oh yeah, I'm very savvy with technology, so we'll work on it right now. Thank you for pointing that out, because it's not worthwhile if you don't do that. Okay, so now working back through, so the reduction in the deputy clerk line. Legal, I kept it about where it was. I added a line for Kaufland and Gerhardt because next year is the beginning of we will contract for the next term of the union contract. We'll begin discussing that.
Okay. Can I just back up for a second? Sorry, to just this is really extraordinary that
you like the colored columns? Is that it?
The colors, yes. No, what I was going to say is in regards to the town clerk and the really extraordinary job that Jesse is doing, that's enabling us to scale back what had been, a pretty sizable position. I think there was 20, 25 hours before, and that Jesse is now doing, that work so that we can save our taxpayers a significant amount of money. So I just really want to give a shout out to Jesse for the great job that she's doing. She's super efficient and really serving our residents and all of us very well.
Yep. Thank you. Totally agree. So again,
in terms of legal and planning, are we going to have any leeway if we have extra expenses next year as a result of work currently being done by the task force? I mean, I could well imagine needing potentially additional planning assistance.
Yeah,
If
so
not,
that's,
if not legal
Sure.
assistance, if we end up making a major move.
yeah, so that's in, my thinking was I have that in the planning contractual line.
Okay,
So I have $20,000 in there, which we did this year, and I think that's that's kind of what I think of. That is planning work for the town. So,
okay,
and we can use that on legal support as well.
good.
So, yep, good point. Um,
Where are we, sorry, where are we in our expenditures for legal this year so far? So
Well,
we're already
We're over budget.
slightly over budget. I
Yeah.
think that we need to increase the line. Hopefully not up to 30,000 or 31,000 like it was back in 2019, but I think that we need to increase it, Mark. And that we should be thinking, maybe 25. I just, too many years that I think that we are bumping up against the edge of this, and we do have a lot of stuff that we're running with the ball on at this point, that I think we're likely to lean on Guy quite a bit. So I think that we should be bumping that up.
Okay, that can be a point of discussion, certainly.
Yeah, okay.
I don't disagree.
I know that, yeah. Anyway, I will share my thoughts with you on that later, but yeah,
Okay.
I would, yeah. Let's see here. Yep, so yeah, so I budgeted Creeks Engineering at 5,000. This number is related to Ecrus Road. We are pretty much done with the engineering work for that, so I don't anticipate that. Actual expended in 2019 was 2,800. So I think that's not unreasonable. And
So you said we're done with the engineering work on that,
yeah,
but not the actual physical.
no, we have another line for that. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I just, I don't know to what extent, my guess is that it's not going to happen until next spring or something, and whether,
It's not. Correct.
is that right? Yeah, and whether there may need to be at least a, an engineering review and whatever. Winter can bring all kinds of changes to what a creek looks like come next spring. So we may still need, a review and just eyeball to see, yeah, it's still the same, or the creek has shifted 20 feet. I think we just need to be prepared that there could be some changes.
Yeah, there could be. This is like, $2,200 over the 2019. And, we were doing engineering work then also.
Okay.
I think.
All right.
So I'm comfortable with that number. And we, as you know, we will have a contingency line for things.
Yeah.
This USGS number is, that's what it is. That's just what it is.
Yep.
And that's renewed. That's a new number. So that's all good.
Public information, is that sending taxes? What is that?
Oh, that's public information is, we do town announcements that, or, when we publish in the town newspaper.
Oh, right. Okay. I just know that we discussed the possibility of a newsletter.
Yeah.
Whether we want to budget for that in this line as well.
Yeah. That's true. Velvet's been working on that, and so I can circle back to her on getting an estimate for that
Okay,
to make sure it, or to see whether we think it fits within this or not. So. Town hall expenditures. I left them about where they were. Yep.
Do we not have like dramatically increased cleaning expenditures for COVID, Mark?
Not really. You know, offices and the town hall
And she cleans once a week?
once a week. Yep, both buildings.
I mean, I would think we'd want the court cleaned after every court session.
Well, she has it. She has a schedule worked out with the justices that they're happy with. Yeah, I'm not sure how exact, because she does come in often. I think she comes in and cleans before court. Now she's coming in on the weekends, and then usually comes in Tuesday afternoons as well. So,
You know, I'm just thinking of COVID cleaning.
mhm.
yeah. They have court Monday afternoon and then Tuesday night, right?
No, Tuesday midday at noon,
Tuesdays midday and Mondays at night.
at 5 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah. So does she clean between Monday and Tuesday?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Doesn't sound so good. What, they had to put together a plan, right? Of
They're doing, she's doing the plan that they worked out. So,
and who was responsible for approving their plan? Is that the court or is that us?
I think that's the, well, I think it's both, really. So,
Because I agree with Tim that they should be cleaning between events.
okay. I'll find out what her cleaning regimen is like and see if she's complying with that.
Well, and it could be that we want to suggest some changes to it.
Right, but we should find out what they're doing first.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
We're just trying to give you more to do, Mark.
Great, thank you. I know that Susan had very strong ideas about how she wanted things done, so I've been trusting that's been happening, and she seems very happy with the way things are going. So, but we are also, keeping a ledger of, when things are cleaned. So we should make sure that we're complying with the mandate.
Yeah. And a ledger of who is in the building, right? So people have to sign in.
Yep, both buildings.
Yeah.
Any other comments on town hall contractual?
How are we with computing centers budget? we're coming up close to the edge there.
Yeah, but it's about right on. The projection would be,
Okay.
9,700. I think it's a good number.
Plus,
Okay.
we had all those strange expenses at the beginning of the year with the transition and the.
Yeah, with the new computers.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think it should be less next year.
Okay.
Um, I left the budgeting for the 2 reserve accounts the same.
Mark, where do you include the costs for the software that the clerks and the code officer use?
There it is. The 1620.41.
Okay. So that's not just for the computing center, that's also for the software? Because
Yeah.
that says IT support. It's
Yeah.
not,
No, I
Mhm.
think I put the software in there too. Yeah, exactly. So that's a separate thing. There's a computing center, then BAS, Williamson. So
those are all under support, because they're not really support, those are software licenses.
well,
But in
that's where
any, okay, in any case, there had been discussion last year when Jesse and Velvet were both just coming into their positions as to whether or not to stick with BAS versus switch over to Williamson Law.
Yep.
And I don't know whether, we had suggested that they learn about them through the year and make a decision. So I don't know if that has, if there's been any decision as to whether they want to stick with BAS or switch to Williamson Law.
So
My understanding is that BAS is, I certainly know it's more expensive, but my understanding is that it's also a much better program, and that most all of the clerks around the county that use Williamson Law hate it and are
So
very
can-
jealous.
yeah.
Yeah,
so I'll
I
Okay, go
just
ahead,
want to
Jessie.
say, sorry, Mark, I just was
Yeah.
gonna say that Velvet and I have discussed it, and I'm really happy with BAS, and I got a lot of training during tax season on that software, and I know Velvet has also had some pretty extensive training on Williamson Law, so I think at this point, we're both just happy where we are and aren't comfortable jumping ship yet, either way.
Yeah, and that's fine, Jess. I just wanted
Yeah.
to know that you guys, that it was on the radar, and, and I honestly, I'm agnostic, and I think you guys have to live with it and work with it day in, day out, and you should have what suits you well. I do wonder, BAS and the online payment for taxes. Is, should we continue with that? I gather that it has created a lot of headaches.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it was my first year. There was some issues at times, I think, on not only people trying to get on to pay it, but also, me just being introduced to it and being new software. But I think overall, I did learn a lot about it. I hope this year that, I'm really going to push for people to pay online.
Yeah,
So I don't know if, I hope that there's not going to be more issues with more people, going on trying to do that. I'm not aware of any other, do you know of any other way how they could pay online without going through
no,
BAS? Yeah.
I don't.
See,
don't.
I don't
And,
either.
and theoretically, doing it through BAS, I mean, I have paid online through BAS, and from my end of it, it's it's very handy because I just print up my receipt right then and there, and I can save it as a PDF, which means I don't lose it in a pile somewhere, so it's great.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, I thought there was some stuff that made it complicated at your end. My whole idea when I suggested that we went to online payment is, you know, I know that it's a lot of time and effort for you guys to, you know, handle each incoming piece of paper and to have to, you know, index it and log it in and do whatever. And I thought that all of that would happen automatically through the BAS system. But I thought what I learned from you is that no, you still
No,
have to
it's-
manually enter stuff, which struck me as a little odd.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do still have to enter stuff, but it's not as, you know, it's not anything technical. It's just individually, you know, uploading the file, checking each file and making sure that it's just transferring files basically from the program, you know, it's not complicated.
Okay, well, the intent
Um,
in going electronic was to save you work and effort.
So,
So, but anyhow, all right, we'll stick with it. Sorry, I don't want to get this too bogged
Yeah.
down in the technical stuff. I
Okay.
just wanted to make sure whether or not we should be spending money for it. So, all right, keep moving.
no, I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so I'm scrolling down. Let me know if you want me to stop. Everything I'm seeing is pretty straightforward. There's the contingency line budgeted at $25,000, which we've done.
Okay. I don't see anything scrolling. You said you were scrolling down? Uh-oh.
Do you not see it, Irene? Are you frozen?
I was.
Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
So
Now it's scrolling.
Okay,
A33 10.4 is way down because we had it up for purchase of streetlight facilities. Dog control is the same as it was this year. We recently approved that 1-year contract. Safety inspection, I budgeted that at $26 an hour, 30 hours a week. I think we're pretty good on equipment in the code office. And the contractual is based on recent expenditures. Support of highways, I kept that constant across the board for those lines, based on feedback from Bobby. And highway engineering the same. Let's see, the garage, I budgeted that down a little bit, so Bob can let me know if that's an issue. The contractuals the same as last year. Food pantry and TCAD the same. I left, so I don't have any information on the rec partnership and the joint youth commission for next year. So I just left it the same as last year. I suspect it may be down a little bit, and I'm going to try to get more information before we adopt the budget on that. Library's the same. Historian lines are all the same as per the recommendation of Barbara Cohn. And also the seniors I kept the same. They're really expending, 2/3 of that or something, usually. Here's the planning line I mentioned, Tim.
mhm, yep.
That's budgeted, the contractual lines budgeted at 20,000. So yeah.
Will we have leeway?
As far as what?
if we ended up needing more?
Well, we could get, yes, so
I'm
it's
not, I'm
the,
not necessarily anticipating that, but there's just a lot,
absolutely,
there's a lot on the plate. Yeah.
right. So the leeway would come first from contingency, I suppose, and then it could come from fund balance as well. If
Okay.
so, yep,
We probably won't need it, but I'm
Yeah.
just, I've learned this fall to pay attention to this.
right, right. I mean, one thing, if you sat down and inked it out and said, we have $40,000 worth of contractual services that we expect next year, then we would want to put that in there. But
Yeah.
if you think, if you think that, this seems like a pretty good number, then we do have leeway to get more.
Okay.
Let me just ask Mark, and I don't know whether it would go in planning or some other place, but part of the comprehensive plan, and I think that there was agreement that it would be of interest for the town to do different kind of planning work, engineering planning, as to where to site a cell tower to provide further service. And so that's a different kind of planning than maybe you think about here, but it may be
I would
something
put
we'd
that
want to
under-
budget for.
I would put that under community services myself.
Okay,
But
yeah, I don't care where you put it, but
it
if-
wasn't in my thinking in this budget. I wasn't thinking of that project, so. So that's something we could talk about, but
yeah,
I don't remember that task item, so. I do remember developing that we have a strong desire to draft a better telecommunications local law
Right.
in the near future.
Right.
So.
Probably that would precede the other, I would think.
Yeah, I would think so too. Let's see. Conservation contractual. I kept that at 5,000. That's where we take our donation to CSI, the water testing that Steve Penningroth. He's requested $3,300 contribution. That's something we could discuss. I think that was a 3% increase. So we can certainly discuss that, what we're willing to contribute. Cemeteries, I left constant. I left the same. I budgeted community services down 5,000. And I just did that by fiat. So we could talk about it if you don't think that's right.
what are the kinds of things, as I see in 2019, it was budgeted at 25,000. We spent only 13,000.
Mhm.
So what are the kinds of things that have been part of community services? Or,
Well, the one that I can remember, which is not that number, which we contributed to a dry hydrant installation that Speedsville Fire Department did. So I remember, I thought, yeah, the 15,000, we budgeted that for, I thought our thinking in 2020 was for dry hydrant work. I'll have to go back in the vouchers and see what the expenditures were for in 2019. I just don't remember.
okay,
That's a good question.
all right. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to learn what they have been.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The NYSERDA CEC grant, anyway, I didn't put anything in there. The punchline is that, we've already committed those funds for the Brighten Up and for the LED light conversion. We've now purchased the facilities. So, and actually, I'm not sure. I updated this yesterday with something's wrong because, oh no, it's not out of this line. No, it's fine. So anyway, I will have to, anyway, the punchline of what I'm trying to say is that I don't expect, we don't need to, I don't expect there to be a levy amount in that budget line. However I end up working it. Retirement. So retirement in the A fund is way down. Not quite sure. I get these numbers from the bookkeeper. So the comparable number in highway is way up. So it's about a wash. Social Security. Excuse me.
Why is it down?
I'm not sure. It's probably related to a personnel change and the tier they're in and transition to retirement or something like that. So
Yeah, I didn't know if
I can, excuse me.
yeah, I didn't know if it maybe reflected the code officer having, that we don't have one right now.
I don't know. I think, yeah, I don't know if that would be reflected at this point. So,
Okay, all right, yeah, I don't know either, but I just wanted to
Oh, yeah.
see if we can, yeah. Think
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
we'll figure out how come it went down.
Yeah. Workers' comp, we got a 2-year quote, so we know that's what the number is, so that's great. Medical insurance, the consortium increased the gold plan premium next year by 3.82%. So I increased that line by 4%. So that's pretty solid, I think.
We don't have to pay unemployment insurance now?
No, so
Paid family leave and unemployment insurance, I mean, at least
yeah, we don't do paid family leave.
we don't.
No, we don't. We
I
are
thought
not.
everybody had to do it.
No,
Okay.
we're not required to, I think, because of the number of employees we have.
I have to pay it for
You do? Yeah,
one part-time employee.
Hmm.
Well, whatever.
okay,
Maybe municipalities are exempt. I mean, I thought it was a change.
okay, I'll find out.
I thought it was because you're a nice guy.
Yeah,
Thanks, Tim.
they said he'll give us the money. So, okay, I'll find out about that, Cal, thank you. Unemployment, that could be an expense. It hasn't been to this point. So, but we typically, during my tenure as a board member or a supervisor, we haven't budgeted for unemployment insurance. Okay, property taxes. So the revenues that we expect are the 2,200 from the payment in lieu of taxes from Fountain Manor. And this is our number for our expected interest penalties on real property taxes. Franchise, I'm leaving constant, and it's close to what it's been recently.
Mark, what is franchise?
That's a franchise fee from the utilities.
Oh, okay.
So, and
Real property taxes won't be up a little. I mean, there's been a little bit of building going on. You just put in the same number.
which line, Cal?
1,001.
So that's the one we're solving for. That's what we're going to get in the end.
Okay.
So that's why that's left blank. That's that's what we're when we get all the numbers in, that's what we're solving for.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yep.
Yep.
It's not the revenue income like that we're going to get from other sources. It's from our own.
It's from our taxpayers, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. let's see, where was I? So yeah, these numbers are really small. The clerk fees, dog surplus, safety inspection fees. I just, so again, let's see. I wonder why I did that.
What, safety inspection?
Oh, I see. Yeah. So we budgeted 0 last year. So, that's conservative.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
certainly,
So these are revenues and we always want to err on the side of, being
exactly,
conservative with these,
exactly. But we'll almost certainly get something there.
right?
This is the workers' comp contribution from the fire company. Here are the payments from our municipal partners in the USGS stream gauge thing. So you remember that the number I had in the expenditure line was about, I think it was around 18,000. So the difference between that and this is the amount we are paying. So we get reimbursed by our partner municipalities, which are Dryden, City of Ithaca, and Tompkins County Soil and Water. I'm in the process of procuring these funds from, I hope this is gone by the end of the year, the broadband services line. So at least, or it's empty. And then these are the various, here are things that Jesse collects: dog licenses, building permits, other permits. And I kept those budgeted just as I had last year.
So Mark, I'm thinking back to the 15,000 broadband from the county.
Right.
Wasn't that pledged to us when we were going to be doing the Clarity Connect build out, and the county
Yeah.
was helping us with that?
Yep.
So are you expecting that we would still collect that money?
Yeah, I've been in communication with them, and they are delighted that we've. Yep. So I've been in communication with the county and with the Park Foundation, and so they're
Great.
delighted to contribute that to support rural broadband in Caroline. So
Okay.
the reason they, it was because Caroline was cut out of that grant back in the day. How many decades ago was that?
Yeah, I know what it was for. That's why I'm wondering.
Yeah.
We were cut out of the grant, but we also never had anything to spend it on.
Well, that we spent it on supporting the round 2 and 3
Right.
New York
With
State
Hafele,
program grant to Hafele.
Yeah. Okay. All
So
right. As long as if they're happy, I'm happy. I just, when we initially approached them about it, it was for poles. It wasn't
Yeah.
for-
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
No,
I'm in communication with
like
them
I
all.
said, if they're happy, I'm happy.
Okay, great.
But I just knew what the original conversations were, so.
Other revenue lines, let's see here. Yeah, these are fairly small items, budgeted them just as I have before. Here's one that's different. It's the state aid. This is AIM funding, A3001. I'm following the recommendation of the county administrator and others who believe that the conservative approach is to budget as if we're not going to get this money and be happy if we do. It's not a lot of money. And the state did propose eliminating this for municipalities of our size a couple years ago. So, so I left that at 0. I put that at 0. I left the mortgage tax alone, and I think that's conservative as well. In 2019, we collected $46,000, and already this year we've collected 30,000. So I feel good about that. And that's it. And this is the this line here is the return of the $6,000 grant from Soil and Water for our bioretention. So I had to put that in this year's expenditures, which affects fund balance. In the DA expenditures, let's see. And so these are, you can see these are all the same. Here is ECRUS carried over again. So that's what that's all about. And that is projected to happen, I believe. I think Bob had a conversation with Gandhi recently, but I think next spring is what we're shooting for. Let's see. So again, I increased the personnel lines 2%. I budgeted chips down 20%, but it really doesn't matter because we can always change the chips amount with a budget amendment. And personnel lines up 2%. So here's a big change. So in 2019, we budgeted 268,000 for equipment line, and then last year 300,000. So this is a reset down to what I think is a more sustainable level for that's what I'm proposing. Contractuals about the same. Again, 2% up for personnel. Yeah, these are all unremarkable. Same as last year.
So Mark, back to the equipment, and I know we'll talk about, maybe I'll just leave that, the equipment budget and how you scaled it back. I think you told me that Bobby has given you, sort of a 10-year projection on capital
Oh,
equipment there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
we'll spend more time talking about that because I just,
I know.
I guess basically that means that we could buy a new truck every 3 years, sort of.
So anyway, I'll go through some more information here, and Bob and I plan to be working on that, 10 or 15 or whatever year plan before we finalize the budget. So,
Yeah. Okay.
What's in contractual under machinery?
Machines,
Bob, what comes out of that?
That's the actual repair budget.
Okay, that's just machinery repair then.
Yep.
Okay.
Great.
I'd like to take that down and add it to equipment. But anyway,
for discussion, so. Great. Let's see, where was I?
No removal.
Yep, snow removal. I'm through that.
So quick question on that, Mark.
Yeah.
I know we talked yesterday about that.
Mm-hmm.
Did we figure out if that was by the encumbered funds?
Yeah, this number is definitely, it's high because of encumbered funds. So,
Okay.
so yeah, it's an oddity. So yeah.
but we've bounced around from 106 to 270 to,
So 270 is not an expended amount. You can see in 2019, we expended 101,000.
right.
And you can see that this year, to date, we've expended 157,000.
Yeah.
And this number, I don't know, Bobby might be able to, I just did, this was based on the time left in the year where I have the arrow. But that may not be realistic. Maybe, most of the salt purchasing is already done. So is that right, Bob?
Not exactly. So the snow budget's a little harder. So it pretty much sits vacant, all summer long. But we have to use it at both other ends of the year. So that's, what we have left in that account has to carry us until January 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Now until January. So we just started ordering a little bit of salt. We have to mix with sand and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay, thank you. I think you're cutting out, Bob, or,
No, I'm good.
oh, okay, good. Thank you. That's good.
Then
Let's-
why was it only 105 the year before, 106, 107? Or it's just that roller coaster of when salt comes in and stuff?
I think there's a little bit of a roller coaster there, but as far as the 5142.4, last year's budget is basically 180,000. I'm not really sure how the numbers come together for the 101. Actually order 3,500 ton of salt a year. $53 a ton. So
Okay. I got about a third of what you said, Bob. But I'll just, can people hear me or?
I can hear you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Okay, I hear you now.
We on average order about 3,500 ton. We don't necessarily take all of that. We have to take 70%. We have to guarantee that we take 70%. So that puts us right in that 180, 80, 85 range, somewhere in there. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to speak up. I hope I'm not talking over anyone, but yeah, I'm looking at the amended budget in 2019. Oh, and then the actual expended. Okay, so it was around 106.
Yeah, that would be the average. 100 and 270 would be 180, 190.
Yeah. Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, so that's right. So, yeah. And yeah, so I don't have the amount in front of me, but we did encumber funds to pay for salt at the beginning of the year this year from 2019. Okay, so here's where you can see that contrary to the A fund, the retirement line here is up $10,000. And I will look into that to see why that flip-flop like that. Workers' comp is the same for the same reason, and then health insurance is up 4%, as I explained earlier. So the DA 2300 is the snow and ice line. And so, yeah, I budgeted at 60,000 based on the actual in 2019. So I think that's how I did that. I didn't put anything for sale of equipment. I don't know, Bob may have input on that. If we expect sale of equipment in 2021. And then here's here's the Ecruz Road project again. As I explained earlier, this is equal to the DA 5112.2 line for CHIPS and winter recovery and Pave New York. And those are all the revenues. So that's that. I have, so for Caroline Fire Protection, I don't actually have the Speedsville budget yet, so I just put a number in there. I do have a budget from Brooktondale. So that's that number for the Caroline Fire Protection contract. And you can see that's up 6.6% if my math is correct. And then this is the payment for the Speedsville workers' comp contribution. And again, that's equal to what it was in 2020. Let's see. So those are, yeah. The Caroline Street Lights number is way down because of it was elevated here for purchase of street lights. So it's way back down. And then yeah, and here's the tentative budget for streetlights, 7,000.
At what point, Mark, do you expect we'll start to see cost savings in our streetlights? Any idea? From using less electricity and.
Well, it should, I mean, it'll be whenever they, get the lights in. So,
Yeah.
But I mean, right now we're going to start seeing cost savings because we now own the facilities. So we shouldn't be paying the monthly facilities charge for each street light. So that's where a huge amount of the savings is. So, which is like what, $77.50 or something like that per street light.
And so can you scroll back up to the streetlight budget for a second?
Mm-hmm.
We're so I guess I'm not quite understanding. I guess we just haven't accounted for the changes.
No, I haven't accounted for the change, and one
Okay.
reason is it's a relatively small amount of money, and also the fund balance in the street light fund is low. So
Okay,
when I get that up,
okay.
so great, and so that's pretty much it. I have a lot of stuff. So what am I going to do here? Let's see. So these are my estimates of fund balance in the various funds, including the reserve accounts, and then the surplus accounts, the expendable fund balance. So this is after, this is what I'm projecting with this budget. So let's see. So you can see that, and I made some graphs, so I think I'll move ahead to those fairly quickly. But the number I have here, I basically engineered it by moving fund balance. It's at the A fund will be at the 20% of budgeted expenditures, and the DA fund will be well below that the 20% of budget expenditures in the DA fund would be 370,000, and I expect will be around 150. So, so going to the budget calculations that I have now, I've applied 132,000 from the A fund balance to offset the levy. The tax rate goes from 6.4331 in 20 to 6.4426949 in 21. So the percent change in the tax rate, it's up 0.15%. And you can see based on the numbers I have at this point, so those will it'll probably change a little bit, but the Caroline Fire Protection District is up 3.4%. Lighting is down 1.47%. The totals with special districts, it's an increase of 1.87%. And with, you know, to get under the tax cap required the application of 132,000 from the A fund balance. That gets us just under that. So so that's where I am, and you can see, yeah. So for a $200,000 home, it'll it's a very modest change in taxes. So
you're saying that the change in our tax levy is, what was it, 0.15%?
the change in the levy is 1.87.
1.87. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Here's the two levies between years. So it's a 1.87% increase.
In the levy, and then what about the change in the tax rate?
For the town,
Yeah,
for the two town funds. So that's up
that's the
0.
0.15. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So the levy has grown because the town has grown,
Sure.
but you've pretty much kept this level to last year in terms of our tax increase per home. The tax rate per any home is roughly the same as it was last year.
Yes, it is. It's, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, so let me go through. So let's see. Oh, I have to share. Let's see. I'm going to stop share, and then I'm going to share my other. I made a presentation. Where did it go? Hang on a sec. Oh, this is it. Okay, I'm not going to go through this again because this is what I just told. Summary of all the things that I went through while we were marching through the budget spreadsheet. So I can share it with you as a PDF or something later. But I guess if you just take a look at it and let me know if you have any questions. But it's pretty much what we just went through. And for the highway fund. Yep, so that's that. So what I did is I plotted the from our annual update documents, I plotted for the A fund and the DA fund, I plotted A fund revenues in blue and then expenditures in green. And then I also, starting at this point in 2012 for expenditures, then I just manufactured a 2% increase per year. So that's what the yellow line is. So you can see here for the A fund, our expenditures have been pretty closely tracking a 2% increase per year. Our revenues have been increasing at a little, both above that level and at a steeper increase. So that's where we've been accumulating some fund balance.
And so Mark, just to clarify, when you say our revenues, that's basically taxation that we've been taxing at those levels? And we haven't been spending as much as we've been taxing for? Is that what I should understand that to mean?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yep.
So we've been taxing
A little bit above, exactly.
above.
What so if you, for the DA fund, for the highway fund, you can see that expenditures are increasing at a little steeper rate than the revenues. And you can see out here, they're sort of crisscrossing. So they're at this point at 2020, they're pretty close to where they are. If you look at the individual bars for any year, you can see that sometimes revenues are higher, sometimes expenditures are higher. It flipped back and forth between years. So that's to try to give you an idea of what's going on. If you look at, in this one, I mapped out the reserve funds. So here's for the A fund. Here's the highway garage fund, and here's the town hall repair fund. And then the yellow is what we've been calling fund balance, or the expendable surplus.
Mark, can I just ask you to do something on the upper right-hand side of your screen where it has like that paintbrush where it says format?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, just click on that again and get rid of that. There we go.
Yeah. So I just wanted to paint a clear picture of where we are and where we've been going with fund balance. And so here we are. This is 2019, and you can see what we'll be doing this year is we are in the process. Bob says the snow plows are nearly ready, so we'll be allocating about $200,000 of fund balance from the A fund toward the plow trucks. This is the 132 that I'm proposing for the levy offset. And then here, this change here is a shift of A fund balance to DA in order to keep the DA fund balance solvent, basically. And the horizontal lines I put in each graph are just show where the 20% of budgeted expenditures is for that fund. So I engineered this, as I said, so that the A fund ends up about at 20% of its budgeted expenditures. For the highway fund, you can see that that we've really, we've lost a lot of fund balance. So that's what's been recovered there. So we need, I think it calls for a need to you know, we're in a situation where we need to really focus on the fund balance and rebuild it. So you know, so you can see that over this is, I just plotted the, since 2012, the budgeted expenditures for the highway equipment line and the amounts we've expended. And so, and you can see that from 2016 to the present, we've spent about $1 million. And these are the equipment items that we've procured at this point. So, in order to sort of gauge whether 130,000 is anywhere, you know, close to what, you know, we might is reasonable. So I treated these 2 years as, and that was exactly what, you know, we were thinking is we needed to make some major equipment purchases. And so we needed to budget high those years. So we've done that. So cutting those 2 years out, I averaged the annual amount budgeted for those remaining 7 years. That comes out to about $106,000 a year. So the 130,000 is a 22% increase above that. So that's sort of, you know, that's just to put things in perspective. And, you know, I know that Bob is working hard on trying to figure out how to create a workable fleet that has functional equipment that they need. So.
Or can we go back? Or I don't know if it's in this set of stuff or where it is, but we have several reserve funds, right? We have Highway Barn Reserve Fund. We've got a Town Hall Reserve. I don't know, honestly, I don't remember what other reserve funds we have.
We only have 3, really. Well, we have the one that's for health insurance, but that's $34,000.
Okay.
But otherwise, we have the Equipment Reserve Fund in Highway, and then we have the Highway Barn and the Town Hall Reserve Funds in the A Fund. That's it.
All right. And so have you, in your budget, how much are we putting into each of those funds in the coming year?
I did just what we did before. I put 65,000 in the Highway Garage Fund, and I put 30,000 in the Town Hall Fund. And the reserve fund for equipment comes from the equipment expenditure line. So that one I budgeted at 130,000.
Okay.
But the other thing I did was sort of estimate what I thought we might have in, you know, leftover funds from amounts we budgeted at the end of the year that could be allocated to town needs like highway equipment. And I came up with, you know, I estimated 30,000 that we could, that I would project. So, yeah, so I think this is, oh, I'm not sharing this though, so that doesn't work.
So what is our Town Hall Reserve Fund? How much is in our Town Hall Reserve Fund right now?
Right now, it's 73,964.
Okay. I'm just thinking forward, you know, we've talked, and I don't know if next year is going to be the year, but, you know, painting or siding. We've also talked about you know, the insulation work.
Right. So
Um,
all I will say to that is, I think we have to take a measured approach. I think we should identify what we want to do next year. We will, so with this, these are the funds in that reserve account now. I budgeted 30,000 in the expenditure line. So
Right,
that comes out to $103,000
right.
that's available in there. So, you know, what I'm, yeah, so, yeah, so that could be a discussion.
Okay, froze again.
Really whop too much of a burden all at once on the residents.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's just part of,
And you know, our highway garage fund, so I will, I want to be clear what I thought I wrote it down somewhere. Maybe it was in my notes. I think it was in my notes, so maybe some of you saw it, some of you didn't. For this year, I'm proposing that we not expend the monies that we put in the expenditure lines for the highway garage and the town hall in order to in order to build the surplus fund balance at this point. I think they're too low. I think they're low enough that we need to let that go to fund balance instead of putting it in the reserve.
You're talking
accounts.
about 2020, right?
I'm talking about this year, correct?
and
Yep.
sorry, Mark, my connection is really bad right now. Can you repeat what it is you don't want to put money towards this year?
We normally budget A 1620.43 and A 1620.44. That's the highway garage reserve account and the town hall reserve account. We
Okay.
have expenditure lines where we put our projected donation to those reserve funds. And we've always said the policy has been that we make a decision on that at the end of the year based on our, you know, based on our fiscal position. And so I'm suggesting that we not put those to the specific reserve funds this year, but let those monies go to the just to the regular fund balance. So we're not deciding that tonight. I'm not, you know, that's something that I want to be clear about. So we will need to decide that. But if we didn't do that, then, you know, those final bars in my little graph, the green lines would increase and the yellow lines would go down. But I don't think we want those yellow lines going down by those amounts.
No,
No.
and so I know the comptroller's office talks about 20%.
It's not a hard line. It's
Yeah,
not
no,
a-
I know, and that's part of why I'm a little, so if I remember correctly, they suggest 20% to get you through the first few months until you've got tax payments coming in to put more
Well,
money back in the bank.
Actually, the justification for surplus fund balance is exactly that, is
Yeah,
what you just said, whatever it is. If you keep 50% in your surplus fund balance, then you are saying we're anticipating that we might need that much money for the first 2 months of the year.
yeah,
So otherwise, it's and as the fund balance policy that I'm going to put forward next week, and I shared with you tonight, explains, you know, if you go above the 20% in your surplus fund balance, you should be thinking about, or you should be taking action to put it in a one-time expense or in a unfulfilled reserve account.
yeah.
So
I guess I just wonder if it's shaving things a little too close to the bone. To go
To
at
do what?
20%, to go right at 20% as opposed to say 25%.
oh, Well, yeah, we can just, I don't know. I mean, it is true that I think that number needs to be bigger the smaller the municipality is. And probably bigger the smaller the fund is. So actually, the first time I wrote the fund balance policy, I think I put the A fund at 25% and the DA fund at 20%, just because DA fund, the amount is for particular, emergencies or whatever, but it might not be proportional to the total expenditures for that, is my thinking. So that's something we could do, or we could put them both at 25%. Either way, I think this is a good thing to think about for structuring our fund balance policy.
Yeah, I
Either
think
way,
it is.
it's not like a number that we put in there and then an alarm goes off at that time and you have to do something. It's just, it's just guidance. So.
Right, well, a bit more
Sorry.
than guidance, because
Yeah.
you don't want to end up where you're, taking in taxpayer dollars that are just sitting there.
Exactly, and we're not doing that.
And so we don't want to, build our undedicated fund balances, to 35 or 40%. Because that's taxpayer money that should either
I
be getting,
understand.
yeah, no, but I do wonder, and I don't know how we decide whether is setting them at 20% a little too close to the bone. And I don't know how to decide the answer to that. So, but I think it's something we should be asking ourselves. That's all.
In terms of highway fund balance, I mean, I'm wondering if that can't be, and this is just a question, but it seems like since we pre-expend, if I understood Bobby correctly, like buy salt up front in advance, etc., there might be a more reasonable expectation that 20% could be safe for that, since we've already made pre-expenditures, right, the year before, if I understand. So, I mean, that might be something that we can just think about if we're worried about keeping it, reasonable.
But on the other hand, a truck could die unexpectedly.
Yep.
And, so,
Easily.
yeah.
That's something to think about.
Yeah, or God forbid, somebody gets hurt on the job and we need to contract in a couple of people to do the work. Or I just, I guess, I just, we can't explore every possible contingency, but it's probably a matter of reviewing some history and really seeing what's going to make sense. Mark, one thing, if I could give you a little homework assignment.
Nope.
Back in 2011.
I wasn't even on the board in 2011.
I know. And
Okay.
I was running for the board back then, and that's when we
Did you notice I started this in 2012? I must have noticed that.
Well, so 2011 is when that really badly named Hurricane Irene, hit, followed by Tropical Storm Lee, and that's when it took out Banks Road. And so I don't remember whether it was out of the 2011 budget or the 2012 budget that, we had to dig in deep to be able to pay for quite a bit.
We can look that up.
repairs.
That's easy to look up. Yep.
I just want to be sure that, if and when we, I hope we don't have any kind of incident like that again, but, I also want us to at least have thoughtfully decided, the risk and the gamble of how close to the bone to trim this relative to something like that. we did eventually get federal money back and we got state money back and all of that. We still had to fork out some on our own. But honestly, we just needed some of it in the bank initially to be able to pay the bills, knowing that eventually we'd get reimbursed. But in whatever case, we still needed to have that money around. So that's all. Mark, this is a really lovely job that you've done on this.
You like the colors?
I do.
Yeah,
I mean, I mean, not only it has helped the readability to me to have it the way that you've done it, but also just, I
Good.
really
Well, thank you.
appreciate this overview and the graphs. I think were really a very interesting way of showing historically what's been happening. So I really appreciate how you've done this.
Sure, thank you. Happy to. It's, it's a challenge because, I think it's important for me to try to understand where we are so we can figure out, going forward. So,
Yeah, I did think of something else that we may want to think about as expenses in the legal arena is with our emergency services. We've talked about various ideas there of how to bring ambulance service townwide, and various conversations we might want to have with the fire departments and our contracts. And so I think that we should probably allow for some legal expenditures there. That would be outside of the norm of what we do with Guy.
okay, to be discussed.
Yeah,
I guess, yeah. Yeah. So we should,
yeah. I know before when I spoke with, I don't remember the guy's name right now.
Brad Pinsky.
No, it wasn't with Brad. It was another attorney. And
Okay.
it was Tim somebody or other. And it was upwards of 15,000 that he wanted to help us work through the ability to have ambulance service for the whole town, or sorry, emergency first responder, local first responder service to the whole town. And it was upwards of 15,000. It wasn't trivial. I don't know.
That's not trivial.
Yeah, so that's, something to put in the hopper, whether it's with Brad or with Tim or whomever. I think that it's certainly something that is a genuine concern to the welfare of our residents and something we should consider.
Okay, it's certainly something to discuss. I guess what I'll say, I hear all of these concerns, but, so I think we need to think about what are going to be priorities for next year.
Yeah, of course we do.
But we can't do everything. And so
No, we can't.
I'm just, my reaction is because I'm feeling, I'm feeling highway needs, and I'm feeling, all kinds of needs. So, yeah.
I know. I mean, that's always what you bump up against in setting a budget. And
I know, but this
it's
year,
particularly tough because we don't want to see increases given the economic strain that everybody's living under because of COVID.
And I think we're in a situation now where we need to reinforce our expendable fund balance a little bit.
Yep. Well,
So,
so some of what it may mean, is that we evaluate the various reserve funds, and maybe we don't make as large a contribution into them this year. You know,
That's right.
something to consider.
Right.
Something to consider. So,
Yep. That's exactly what I'm proposing for 2020. So I agree with that.
so.
All right.
Yeah,
So
so-
it's getting along. It's 9:22, and I did put forward a proposed. I know that Irene mentioned to me that she had looked it over, and that's great. So I guess I would suggest that I put it out there really because I like the concept of, and I'll just
Mark, what is it? I'm
What
not
are, yeah,
sure.
what are you talking about?
What is it?
Oh, I'm
What-
sorry. Can you see my screen?
Mhm.
We still
Yes.
see the budget.
You
Are
still
you-
see the budget?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
See,
no,
it's,
that's okay. So you would need to close the budget screen and then share the
Right, I know.
document.
I'm doing it.
Yeah, it's always weird, that piece with Zoom.
Yeah, I thought you were in my world, but you're not. So,
And now you need to somehow make that bigger because I can't read any of that.
well, I was going to read it to you, but yeah, there it's bigger. So, if you put your fingers together and then pull them apart on the screen, it gets bigger. So
On
The,
your
um,
screen, not mine.
Not mine.
it's not bigger now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
bigger now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, so once we establish this policy or whatever, it's really no different than what we've been doing by the bootstraps anyway. But the point is that when you build your surplus funds, and then when you go above that, you can shunt funds to one-time needs or priorities. And so I'm as I explained earlier, my thinking is based on our current budget that we'll have some surplus funds that can be shunted to equipment needs if those are seen as an immediate need or whatever to reinforce the equipment line. So
you're talking about surplus funds from 2020.
I'm just talking about going forward.
Oh,
Yeah,
in general,
I'm talking about
policy
going
in general.
forward. Yeah, in general. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and Bob created a nice spreadsheet to help me get my mind around, the highway equipment. So he and I will be playing with that to see what we can come up with, and it at least gives a really good context for thinking about highway needs and how to meet them. So
Thanks for doing
appreciate
that, Bobby.
That's really good.
I've been wanting to see equipment in a spreadsheet for a long time.
well, you're gonna probably at some
Yeah,
point. pretty
no,
soon,
it's
so,
great. It's great. We've needed it.
Um,
Are you sure you want to look at this one, Irene?
Yeah, well,
what was that?
I said, I'm not sure that she really wants to see this one. Because I don't think Mark really wanted to see this one.
That's what I've been hearing.
Very good. So, okay, great. So, does anybody else have any? I mean, I think the next thing we should do is set at least a first budget time to discuss the budget. And I was going to propose.
oh yeah, we need to set up a schedule, don't we? The budget
Yeah.
meetings.
I think we should just, well, I was going to propose that we have our first budget discussion at next week's business meeting.
Yeah,
it could be
absolutely.
part of
Absolutely.
it. Okay, great.
Fine.
So let's do that. And then at the end of that, we'll gauge, how bewildered we are. And then we can set our next meeting beyond that.
Well, I would say, Just
If
that
we-
probably next week's meeting is gonna focus on highway. A lot, right?
That's a good point. We should, I guess, yeah. That's true. We should probably break it down by fund. So yeah. Shall we do that, Bob? Do you want to talk highway next week?
Yeah, that's fine. That works.
Okay. Good. So we'll do that. And so, great. So let's plan on that.
Cal has eye surgery every Wednesday for the next 4 Wednesdays. I will do my best to
No, do
be,
you really, Cal? Oh, my God.
Bummer.
yeah. So
Holy moly.
I will do my best to be here next Wednesday evening. But I don't know.
You're definitely excused if you, certainly if you need to.
Well, yeah,
Wow, good luck. Well,
yeah. The symbolism of my not seeing clearly is troublesome.
Yeah.
So,
John had sent us a few
but anyway,
dates about his availability. Mark, when do we need to have the final done? And voted on?
so I just, it's always November 20th. That's the drop dead date.
Okay,
Enfield passed their budget last week. I think Ulysses has theirs. Anyway, I'm hoping to get it done in October if people can do that. But
yeah, I would like to see that too. If I remember last year, we were down to the skinny minute.
yeah, we have been, and so yeah, I don't know why that keeps happening. But yeah, I would like to figure out a budget and put it to rest this month if we could possibly do that. So
Yeah. I think not only for our planning, but also for the public's planning, we should perhaps schedule one additional meeting at least in October. So if we're next week going over highway stuff, I don't want to be just at
Yeah,
next week
true.
and first announcing to the
That's
public
fine.
that we're going to meet on Monday. So
well,
how
we
about,
wouldn't do that, but
can we
We can meet
nail
on
that
Monday
at least one date?
yeah, Mondays are off.
Yeah, no, I just was pulling a day out of my, whatever, but,
So Irene, do you have John's dates that he can't make it on your?
I can pull it up. Yeah, let me find out. So it seemed like Velvet had been posting some stuff. So John is not available on the 13th, 21st, 22nd, and 28th. So we've got a meeting on the 14th.
Does anyone want to meet the 15th? Thursday?
Could
They're
do.
trying to make it so I have 4 meetings in a row for like 5 weeks in a row.
oh,
Okay, how about this? Well, this, I don't know, this is probably, I mean, we could, I don't know, do it the next Wednesday? Or something like that?
I could.
20 Oh, that's, John can't do the
John can't.
21st.
John can't.
Right,
Sorry.
John can't on the 21st.
John can't do
You'll have-
Wednesdays in
Maybe
general.
we'll have to do it the 15th. Get it over with.
That's my preference, and I
Take
Yeah.
it.
know it's a bitter pill. I'm happy with that if you guys can stomach it.
I'll do it.
In some ways, I think it'll be helpful, at least for me, because stuff will be fresh in my head of what we just talked about.
Well, I agree with that too. I think it'd be much better to have it in close proximity like that. So great.
So 7 o'clock?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
7 p.m. both days. So yeah. Okay. So that's I think a good plan, because we're going to have a date for each of those discussions. Great.
Yeah, and the public hasn't really seen this yet. So, next
It'll,
week,
it'll go out later this
there
week.
may be discussion from the public as well.
Yep. Great. Okay. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
I'm going to move right
Yeah.
along here.
Oh, I thought we were done.
So do we want to, can I put forward approval of the minutes of September 9th?
Second.
Seconded by Tim. Any discussion? I thought they were excellent.
As per usual.
Yeah. Okay, so I will call for a vote. All in favor of approval of those minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so they're approved. Thank you. And I will call for items for the business meeting, agenda items for the business meeting.
We'll have the official vote on the broadband resolution that we had a
Yeah.
discussion and
Yes. Broadband
Earlier support.
OTR resolution. And anything else from tonight?
You
Let's
had
see.
mentioned about the highway task force update for next
Yeah.
week.
That's right. Thanks, Jesse. Yeah, so that'll be a discussion item, discussion of highway planning, highway garage planning. Great. Then I have a few items that I would like that we need to take care of. One of them is for the Health Consortium. So I'll put forward approval of the 2020 and 2021 municipal cooperative agreements for the Health Consortium. So this is a kind of a ministerial thing, but that's something we need to get done. I will introduce a local law to override the tax cap. Not that I plan to do that, but if we need to have that ready in case we do. Oh yeah, so then county planning put out a request. I will send this to you. So we should have a discussion next week about this. I think it's due by the end of the month. So they're asking municipalities for suggestions about specific things that county planning could provide support or assistance with. So, I'll put that on the agenda for discussion. And then the other thing is that I've invited, so the street light, the LED street light process is in play. And so I've invited Casey Mastro.
Oh,
I know
great.
some of you were asking about adding and subtracting streetlights and getting advice or engineering or recommendations on that. So I've asked Casey and Steve Nicholson. Steve was involved in a town streetlight evaluation in the 2000s. So he said he would be willing to come and offer his perspective. So I thought that would be useful for us to hear from them about that. So that's all I've got. And then the budget discussion. So we'll be up till 11:30 or 12. Any other thoughts? You guys are being really quiet now.
Yeah, it's after 9:30.
I'm
That's what
thinking about ending this meeting. That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
It sounds good, Mark. Thank you.
Yep, okay. So with that, I will call for adjournment of the meeting.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye,
aye.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Yep.
Mark.
Yeah,
thank you.
have a
Mark.
Bye,
good evening.
everyone. Bye. Bye.
We'll see you
Bye.
soon.
Yep.